Greetings! Welcome to the Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades tutorial series. In this video, we're going to be covering the item spawner, as well as ammunition manipulation and the various ways in which we can use it and manipulate firearm magazines. So let's start out by talking about the item spawner, which is over here. You'll find this in pretty much all of the sandbox scenes that are in H3, and it is your portal to spawning various sorts of firearms and other toys to play with. The primary menu that you see here is our sort of top level categories: handguns, shotguns, SMGs, rifles, support weapons, attachments, melee weapons, and miscellaneous objects. We can click with our trigger into one of these to open up subcategories for that type, and then click again to see a listing of available objects. There may be multiple pages within that subcategory, which you will see down there. We have next and previous buttons there. And if we pull open a firearm, let's say this Browning High Power, it will open up a details page, which will show you a picture of the item, what ammunition it uses, if relevant. We can spawn it by clicking this lower right-hand corner here. And then we have to the side sort of secondary objects that might be relevant to the primary listing. In this case, for this firearm, we want a magazine for it. So we can spawn that there, and then we have our handgun to play with. Fantastic. If you find that it's not quite the height you want, if you're doing a lot of stuff with the item spawner, note that we've got these little green triangles in the corner you can grab, and you can adjust the height. And then lastly, when you have an entry for a firearm open, you'll notice that there is a instruction sheet above you. This will give you on the left the mappings of various commands in the sort of left box. This is telling us what the touchpad / joystick quadrants do, as well as the what the trigger does and what the grip buttons do. And then in the center, we have the sort of order of operations that are necessary to load and ready the firearm for use, and any sort of relevant advanced notes for that class. Another piece of really useful functionality with the item spawner is something called the vault. Let's say that we have a firearm that we've kitted out to all of our desires. It has a magazine in it. It's loaded the way we want. We've got some attachments on it, which will obviously make more sense when we get to the attachments video. And we want to save this for the future. The item spawner can help us with this as well. We can place the firearm on the bed of the item spawner, and from the main menu of it, go to the upper right-hand corner called Vault, and then click the upper right-hand corner again to scan this firearm. When I do so, it scans it in. We can see we've got our QC9 with a drum mag, the ACOG, and a suppressor there, and we can create another one of these by just clicking on the main entry. Boom! And there we have another copy, ready to go. So that's something else that the item spawner can do for you. So the next thing we're going to cover is the ammo panel, which this is an item that's sitting out in a number of different scenes, but can also be gotten out of the item spawner in the miscellaneous utilities category. You can see it right there. What this allows us to do is to spawn any type of ammunition that is in the game, both by caliber type and then by subtype. I'm going to tap this little lock button in the corner so that this can float in front of us. And so what we can do, is let's pick up a firearm and see what happens when we do this. I have the KWG shotgun in front of me here. This is a fictional mag-fed shotgun, and the reason is because we can actually see into its magazine for loading different types of ammo into it. I'm going to start by emptying it into this pot here. Any magazine that you're holding can have a round ejected from it by simply clicking the touchpad or joystick. So I'm going to pop those out there and have an empty magazine. What I can now do is go over to the 12 gauge section of my ammo panel and see all of the different types of 12 gauge shells that I can spawn. So I can say spawn, let's see, what would be fun here. Let's spawn a Dragon's Breath round, and I can either spawn a single cartridge, like so, or I can hold the magazine in my hand, or the firearm itself with the magazine in it in my hand, and we get a load held mag with button. I can go like that and immediately load this magazine with Dragon's Breath rounds. These are low pressure rounds, so it won't cycle this. I have to manually rack it each time. Boom. But just to give you an idea. Let's go ahead and pull this out. Empty those. Wonderful. Pop that out there. So we can do some things. Let's actually go ahead and spawn a number of different kinds of rounds. So we can spawn a buckshot here, a slug, a triple hit. Perfect. Now, if we were using something like a break action shotgun or even just trying to load a mag pretty rapidly, we might want to hold more than one round in our hand at a time. And you can do that with ammunition in H3, and only ammunition. What you do is you pick up the first round that you want. In this case, I've got my buckshot shell, and you can then push it over another round of the same type and click down on the touchpad. This will palm that round into your hand. You can actually do this with several, like so. And I'm now holding these 4 rounds. In reality, only one of them is real. The rest are sort of a proxy display. But for our purposes, that they work just fine and they become real the moment you drop them, like so. And once again, they're real rounds. They can be moved around. So let's pick these up again. We can cycle which one is in our hand versus in our palm by clicking left and right on the touchpad to cycle through them like so. And we can drop them out of our hand by clicking up on the touchpad like so. And it will drop them out in order. Let's pick those up. We can load these into our mag here. And incidentally, whereas before when I clicked the touchpad to eject a round here, before, if I do that in proximity to my hand holding down my grab button, I can actually push the round directly into the hand. So there's all sorts of ways in which we can move rounds around for various purposes. You can also put a group of them palmed like so into a single quick belt slot and spawn lock them and duplicate them out. You can hold a group of them in your hand over a quick belt slot and click up on the touchpad to dump one in. So in this case now there's 5 in here. Wonderful. And then let's load these up. And fire away. Wonderful. And that is what you can do with ammunition. The last thing involving ammunition, putting a bunch of these ideas together that's important to remember, is that oftentimes when you spawn something like a revolver or a shotgun out of the item spawner, it's only going to spawn it with one shell. What you want to do with that shell immediately is place it into your quick belt slot and spawn lock it. What we can then do is grab that duplicate out, and let's say we were using a break action, double barrel shotgun. Let's go ahead and pull that out here. There we go. As you can see, it spawned with one shell. If I take my duplicated shell and then hold it over my quick belt slot, click up on the touchpad, there's now 2 in that slot, which is perfect for firing a double-barreled shotgun like this. So we crack that open, take 2 shells out, 1, 2, flip it shut. Beautiful. And this is the technique that you typically want to use if you're firing either, a 2-shot break action or in certain cases, revolvers. So that's how you use ammunition and the item spawner in H3VR. Peace.